they're working on recording the meeting.
Okay.
So we'll do
Just
that.
in case we forget stuff.
That's right. I'm gonna work on.
Because it's a public meeting where.
Yes.
I could have done a little bit more with my hair. Sorry about that, guys.
All right, live streaming is on. So your official start time there, Miss Amy.
Okay, 9:04 is our official start time. You made me the host again.
I'm doing that now.
Okay, so I can share.
9:04.
9:04, please.
There you go. You're good.
And thank you so much. We appreciate you. No. Bit. I just had them up. There they are. Okay, so and Leslie, you missed it. I kind of quickly started the meeting. Then we said, oh no, wait, we need to record. So we are restarting the meeting, 9:04 a.m. I wanted to welcome our newest members, which are Michelle Allison as well as Carolyn Murphy. So we thank them so much. We did have a prior orientation with them, just to sort of let them kind of know what was the current things that are happening for us, as well as, what OTAC is all about. So we'll start with the first thing on our agenda is just sort of going through those meeting minutes, making sure I sent them ahead to you guys to sort of look at. So we just need to make sure that you guys are okay with them. I didn't really see anything that kind of stuck out like, hey, we didn't, anything like that. Everything looked pretty good to me. Leslie, you do need to mark that Darby didn't get to make this meeting. That'll need to be on the next set of meeting minutes as well.
Okay.
She's in Florida, but I can't blame her.
Yes, absolutely.
That's right. And I think I see here on here that you wrote present via telephone was Morgan. This time it's going to be Latasha. She's on as well.
All right.
Okay, and then we have Jacinta. She's on the Zoom meeting. Well, so is Latasha.
Right.
She's on via video. Okay, so we had our quorum. We looked at the meeting minutes. Anybody object to the meeting minutes or would like to motion to accept them?
Move to accept.
Okay, Brenda.
Is that Brenda?
Brenda.
Yeah.
A second.
Kelly, second. Okay, so that motion passes.
Did not have a vote. You have to have a vote.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. You're right. I apologize. I was all excited. We got two. All right. So how's everybody? Yay, nay, any nays to accepting? Okay. All right. The motion passes. All right. Can't see everybody when I do that share screen. That's no fun.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I am admitting Darby. She's on her phone. She's
All right. Hi, Darby.
Darby. Oh wait, she's not on yet. She's connecting with audio.
Yeah, it'll take her just about 15 or 20 seconds probably if everything goes right.
Perfect. All right, Darby, you there? I think it's still trying to work. Darby, if you're there and can't talk to us, we welcome you. Okay, so our first part, our first item on the agenda is talking about wound care. We were brought up, or it was brought up with the board for us to have a discussion considering whether occupational therapists can complete wound care and, what right do we have to say that? What kind of curriculum is in our, what we learn, and then versus OT versus CODA? Are they allowed to do it? And all those kind of things. So I called the ladies, our university, community college ladies, all of our professors and things, and asked them to look back in their curriculum. So we have Ingrid, we had Carolyn, we have Kelly and Michelle, all kind of on this. And so I'm going to give you guys the floor in just a second, but one thing that Kelly found was our education standards, which is called ACOT. She found this paper, The Role of OT in Wound Management. And so one of the larger things, I guess, that I noticed in this, and Dr. Van, I did send it to you in the email, like to start okay. The biggest thing, let's see, our role in wound management, of course, and this sort of talks about that, but also the interventions and all that kind of stuff. Let's see. I thought I had admitted her. Sorry, Darby was having to come in differently. So all of this, and then this starts with what our education background is, and then the ethical considerations, which basically kind of, to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, ladies, in just a second, for each one of y'all, I'll let you give a little quick talk. But I definitely see that we have a code of ethics and ethics standards that require not only that we learned some things in school about this, but that we further our education and make sure that we have that service competency before we are even bothering to do any of this stuff. And then of course it has, case studies with it. Okay, so I'm going to open it up to Ingrid to kind of talk about that.
Sure. I don't personally teach this content, so I reached out to my fellow faculty members and learned that wound care is explicitly taught fairly extensively at LSU Health Science in the occupational therapy program in New Orleans. If you want to make me a host, I can share a PowerPoint if that would be of interest. I have one ready that I could share just as an example. Also, burns and burn rehab is taught separately from wound care.
Amy,
in separate lectures. And
can I interrupt for just a minute, Ingrid? Amy, so we don't have to switch back and forth. If you make her a co-host, she could also share without having to be the host. That way she won't have to give it back to you and stuff like that. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Okay, go ahead.
Would that be helpful, Amy, for me to share?
Or it doesn't, as long as we, kind of cover the things. I know Dr. Van's kind of run to it looks like the restroom. I didn't even know that you could put that on here, by the way, Alan.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sure. That would be perfectly fine. I think, I know the biggest concerns that he had from what he expressed to me was what in our curriculum gives us the right.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and his larger concern was, okay, well, if a CODA goes and gets educated on this, are they okay to do it? Under the direction of OT, but can the OT just say, here, go do wound care on Mr. Smith, and they debride and they dress the wound and, all that kind of stuff. So, and I would be 1000% speaking out of turn if I even talked a little bit about wound care, because it's just not something I've ever done.
Right.
I've seen it, obviously. Obviously, it was somewhere in my education, so I won't deny it. And I can identify what type of wound it is, but or maybe the level, but that's probably about as far as I can go. So I am leaving this up to you guys to kind of, I want to discuss it, of course, on my with you guys, but
I'll go ahead and just share the screen with the PowerPoint. Just
yeah. Okay, wait, I'm gonna stop sharing real quick.
Yeah, you got to stop
Okay,
sharing.
Go ahead.
Good.
Oh.
So you're a pro at this already, Amy.
Go ahead. I just don't know how to say I'm going to the bathroom.
Well, and just like you, I'm like, wait, what happened to I've got my dry needling one and I've got my burn rehab one up, but I don't have.
Yeah, it's like sneaky.
One.
It's sneaky about it.
There might be a
Darby.
place at the bottom that says show all windows.
Oh yeah, you can. Yes, if bottom right, it.
Yeah, and then you just pick the one. Yeah.
I must not have had it ready to go though, because otherwise, well, here's the burn rehab one.
I just have to say real quick, Darby, super impressed you're in Florida and bothering with us.
No,
Oh, really?
I'm trying. I'm having so much technical issues that I'm on my phone. Okay.
Gotcha. Okay. We can see it. Yay.
That was the burn rehab one. Here was the wound one.
I don't know that we had to actually look at the whole PowerPoint, because
I
I'm
was just-
pretty sure. Yeah, I mean, I remember
It's
we got,
146 slides.
Oh,
on
yeah.
I just wanted to point out, is like.
I think we got a
than I
really good,
realized.
I think we got, we get, and as long as we know, I know when I was in school, we got the education on wounds and burns. And I think it's like everything else, it's service competency. Can you prove that, can you show that you have the skills to do that?
And not only that though, in the A code stuff, and Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the one who sent it to me. It basically kind of says that we still insist that you have the ethics to go get some further education, continuing education, etc. That kind of thing. So I just, it's within our ethical standards to do that. We're supposed to have, like you said, Leslie, a competency. I don't really have any doubt that an OT can do this.
Yeah.
I mean,
I guess between our anatomy, our physiology, our medical conditions, and then specific lectures on wound care and burns, we really are providing the groundwork in occupational therapy education.
okay. So now the next level of question that Dr. Van was asking was OTs versus CODAs. So where do we lie on that point? I guess Kelly, if Kelly or Michelle, either one, both of you, if you can kind of help us to wade through that water.
So we also have the burn center come over, and they give an elaborate, lecture on burns and wound care and splinting. And then also I do a pretty extensive lecture series on splinting as well for post-op burns and wounds, being as that's my wheelhouse. And so I know that ours are rather prepared, to treat wounds in relationship to burns, but I would agree that they would do that under the direction of an occupational therapist, that to where, one or both have had the continuing education and follow-up on wound care. So I definitely think that we give them a basic knowledge in our program, but if you're going to become specialized in that, then you need to further educate in that.
Which is also included in that ACOT paper, right?
On the AOTA position paper.
AOTA, okay.
But you have to remember that the standards don't require that they have that, it's going to be program specific as to how much information that they give, because in the standards themselves, there's not a minimum requirement that they have to have wound care knowledge necessarily for OTA associates. I don't know about the other ones, but.
So the only, okay, so if we're just talking about the state of Louisiana, I mean, we have all the universities represented here except Delgado Community College they have an OTA program. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do y'all's, do you have the same curriculum, Kelly, as them, or yours is?
No,
no, Michelle.
I mean, everybody has to meet the standards, but how they do that is up to the program. So, people programs specialize in different areas really based on their experience and their instructors and what their philosophy and mission is. So there's just, as far as the standards go, there's only one mention of wound repair in the physical or electrotherapeutic agents. It doesn't even mention it in the standards for us. Now I don't know about OT and Carolyn, I guess you do both. So
Yeah.
If I might ask a question.
Sure.
you have a raft of generations of both OTs and COTAs. Are all generations have gotten this course at basic? Or if you're going to do it, do people have to have current clinical competence demonstrated by continuing education that they were trained after they finished their program? And then with regard to the CODAs, more importantly, I think you need to be able to say that the CODAs can only do it if the OT in charge certifies that they are capable of doing it.
And that would have to be the case anyway with service competency. I mean, to do that specialized skill. I mean, they have to have service competency for really anything that they're delegated. So,
so basically what I'm asking is an OT that's been in practice for 15 years and got out 15 years ago. Did they have this wound care training?
Yes.
Should have.
The
Okay,
basics
good.
of it, yes.
This
And
old
do they-
girl's been in practice for 20 plus years. Definitely got it.
Good. That's all.
Yeah.
Then I think it's safe to say the OTs are not an issue. Do you want to have current clinical competence with a requirement for, if they do that, to have continuing education? If not, that's fine. But with the assistants, I think we have to make it a little bit more definitive as to how, they probably should have some continuing education, and the OT that's supervising is responsible for certifying that they know how to do it.
Right. And that's already in there, the competency part of making sure they know how to do it, but wanting more continuing education. I mean, I'm all for that. How's everybody else feel about that?
Absolutely, because you can do damage with that.
Yeah, I agree.
Ingrid?
I think, I guess my question is simply, is the fact that our AOT standard says that it's an ethical responsibility for OT and OT assistant practitioners to make sure that they're competent in what they're providing. Is that broad enough language, or do we need to make it narrower and say that in the state of Louisiana, you have to have specific further education before doing wound care?
Okay, let me say this to you. I think in any profession, there are what I like to use the term cowboys, and then sometimes they would be cowgirls. And I think the issue here is I may think I know what I'm doing, and that's the most dangerous application of a technology or a care methodology. So I think if you're going to say that they're doing it, they're going to have some regular, I mean, if you want to say every 2 years, you must have, if you're doing wound care stuff, that's fine. Because I think, if they mess up wound care, people can lose legs, toes, and everything else. So I think it's real important that you think about that.
I see your point. Definitely.
Okay, so Dr. Van, I guess my question here, we're having this discussion. We agree that OTs are pretty ready to kind of go and definitely need to further their continuing education as an ethical, excuse me, standard. But and then we agree that the CODAs will get their service competency. But where is it that, are we just going to do like a position paper or something saying that we want the CODAs to go to a continuing education specifically?
Based upon what you decide today, we will formulate an answer that will probably be an advisory opinion published on the website that would be binding to everybody.
Okay.
So if you want the advisory opinion to say they have to demonstrate current clinical competence by regular continuing education for ATs and for the OTs and the COTAs, that's fine. We can put it that way. And then if you want to say anything about, and reiterate, I think is what you really need to be saying, reiterate the fact that when the OT tells the assistant to do the wound care, that she is certifying that that person knows how to do it and will do it properly. We can reiterate that in the opinion as well.
Okay. All right. So ladies, where are we on that? I really don't think we have, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody raise your hand or shout out, that we're okay with the way the OT part of it is, meaning that you're given the information when you are in school, and that we advise that you continue to get continuing education to, for anything new that happens in the field, things like that. But that with the code, or is everybody okay with that OT part? Everybody feels confident that OTs can do this and that we're
Yes.
along the right path. Okay. All right. So CODAs, Kelly, tell me something, tell me some good.
Well, like I said, I mean, our students get the burn lecture, just like Carolyn mentioned, Shannon Abney coming over and doing the burn lecture with our students. And they get the splinting lecture, like Michelle said, but that doesn't mean that it's not, that's kind of above the minimum standard.
Right.
The minimum standards don't say that you have to have that.
And that's what BIPSI is doing. That doesn't mean Delgado is doing the same thing. And it doesn't mean that Arkansas did it and one of those CODAs is down here.
Right.
Okay. So how do we, what do we want our CODAs to know then? What do we want to, and you have to think, we don't just have CODAs that went to BIPSI and Delgado. We have from anywhere. They can be from Hawaii. So, let's sort of think along those lines and tell me,
well, I mean, I guess I liked the way Dr. Van phrased that, practitioners need to demonstrate their clinical competency in wound care by continuing education in that specialty area.
Yeah, and I agree. And he also said in that they're under, the supervision of an OTR that has that continued, education and experience in wound care as well. And then to demonstrate that service competency means that they're able to, show exactly that they're able to complete it in the same manner and fashion as their supervisor.
I just think continuing education is going to be a big part of it. They're going to have to do that.
Okay, so demonstrate clinical competency with continued education.
Current clinical competence.
Current clinical competency with continued education. The supervising OTR has continued education as well in wound care, and show that the CODA is able to complete this. This is where we are. Does anybody else have anything that they think should be added for the CODA?
It would just be a matter of reiterating, just clarifying that the occupational therapist has the responsibility to make sure that the CODA has service competency specifically in wound interventions.
Okay, and that the OT has the full responsibility that continuing education of CODA with wound intervention.
I guess the OT doesn't have to do the education. They have to make sure that the CODA has demonstrated service competency in wound care interventions.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have some thoughts about that? I don't want to not include anyone. Carolyn, you have anything to add?
Oh, the only thing that came to my mind was when I worked in the hospitals, we had to document that the CODAs had service competencies, that we did that annually. And I don't know if that was just a site specific thing or what. So if there was something special that they that I can't remember what we, the areas that we did, but it was an annual thing that we had to go through and document that they had service competency in areas. So I don't know if it needs to be like a written thing for sites. I don't know. Does anybody else?
It has to be. I mean, they have to show written service competency annually, legally, for any?
Yeah, because there's a page on our website, I think that has for just generalized service competency. So, okay, so we could say that OT has responsibility, that CODA has continuing education in wound intervention, and it is documented, or has full responsibility to document
I think the
competency.
OT has to make sure that the CODA can demonstrate service competency.
Okay.
Where it's going to be documented, it's going to change. Like theoretically, all places of employment should have a service competency that they do every year, whether or not that happens. But if wound care is part of that CODA or OT's responsibility, you should be demonstrating clinical competency. I mean, I don't know how well people follow up on that, but theoretically, yes, your place of employment should ensure that you have it as well.
Okay.
And maybe that's something, I know that we just have the sample service competency form.
I'm going to leave and go to my other meeting. I'll be back.
Okay, thanks.
That sample form, maybe we could add that as a, a category, if it was applicable to the facility, just to kind of, what I'm talking about, the sample service competency form that we did.
The one that's, I think there's one on the LSBME website.
Yes.
There was.
We did that in collaboration with the LSU Freeport campus. And so I don't think wound care is on there, but maybe we could just add it to it.
Sure, absolutely. Is that what did you give that to LSBME and then they put it on the website? Oh, well then absolutely. I see no harm in that. Number one. Number two, though, I could never find it for my CODA. So I made my own, but we have sort of a specific deal. Like we do home assessments. I mean, I don't know how much of that is going to be on there. And we do early steps, which, some of that is, but just, I made mine more specific to my.
Amy, that's how it's supposed to be. It is supposed to be site specific. Each site should be making service competencies for the kind of patients that they're seeing.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no generic one because every site might have something unique. And I guess Dr. Van just wants this reiterated, even though we've already got it covered within our Practice Act. I guess he just wants it reiterated because wound care is such a high risk in intervention.
Absolutely. And I think that a question must have come up. And so the whole board was like, wait a minute, can OTs do this? Well, and the larger question is, can their assistants do this? So what they'll do is, I don't know if you guys have seen on the website, but there's also like either frequently asked questions or position papers and things like that. So if it comes, I mean, I sort of feel like the dry needling thing could be done through that once hopefully we're approved, which we'll get to that talk in just a little bit. But it sounded like, they just want a position. They want how we feel about it. And then they pick, yeah, that's appropriate, or, that kind of thing, or they may add something else to it. But at this point, that does sort of sound how we feel that yes, we think OTs are ready. Of course, we would love for them to have some further education. It'd be only smart to do that. Plus it's in our ethics, as well as, our ethical standards. And then from that point, the CODAs just become that we want that competency done and make sure that they have that. So,
and that should be incumbent upon the supervising OT.
Absolutely.
In theory, we would like to think that happens everywhere. But I think as long as we put something that's fairly generic that just says whatever he was saying, that we have service competency or current clinical competency and the education to support it. I don't think we should get too specific about how it's documented and all that.
Right.
Yeah, we'll just.
I don't think we should get into like number of hours of continuing ed or anything. It would just be our position that the education of an OT and a CODA provides the basics and fundamentals, but that our position is that it's a specialty area that would require
ongoing
continuing education.
Yeah.
Do you want me to write up a draft of like a position, Amy, and then send
that would be fabulous. Ingrid, yes. Yes, thank you so very much.
Okay, we can just change wound care to dry needling and insert that in as well. Just put that.
I like it. Okay, so ladies, we feel good about this. So we feel like we discussed it and we kind of have our position on it.
Yes.
Okay, Ingrid, I apologize, but if it's possible, do you have time to do that today? Because they have a board meeting on Monday and they want to vote on it.
Yes, I will after, because we'll probably be done with this meeting by 2 at the latest usually.
I'm hoping before then, but yeah.
Okay, so I'll definitely have time this afternoon.
And yeah, I didn't have too big of a meeting plan this time because, well, we were supposed to have LOTA and NBCOT in on this one, but they just, you know, I couldn't get that together in enough time. So I'm hoping for the December meeting. Okay, so Ingrid, can you stop sharing so that I can share the next thing? I think because I can't share while you're sharing. Okay, there we go. All right. So Dr. Van, if it's okay with you, Ingrid, I'm not sure if when you came back, but Ingrid is going to write sort of our position on that and send it to you.
Please.
For the meeting on Monday. It's Monday, right?
Yes.
Monday, Tuesday. Well, y'all have, sorry, 48 hours, y'all will be on that call. Yeah, so that sounds good. All right. The next part on the agenda is, I think, wound care. I'm sorry, we just talked about wound care.
Dry needling.
Dry needling.
Okay, so I don't really have anything to share to show y'all right now. So where we are with dry needling, of course, Dr. Van talked about the August meeting had to be canceled because of Laura, and so the September meeting is bashed into 2 days, and so it's already chock-a-block full. So the dry needling presentation, I'm hoping can be either in the November or December meeting, or he's hoping it could be in the November, December meeting. I think the guys are ready. They have I think a doc that is going to go on with them too. We did ask them, as well as Dr. Van asked me to tell them, brevity is the key. Get your major points across, which we told them when we talked with them for that Zoom call we did. You know, they've kind of, it's a large presentation, and I did go ahead and send you the final copy that in the email that I sent. And it's pretty long, but I think there's things we talked to about them that, like, hey, here are the send it home points that you guys need to say and do. And so that's kind of the major thing to report about dry needling. So no, it hasn't been done yet, but we're, you know, there's it's 2020.
Tell them the board's going to cut them short at 15 minutes. So be prepared for 15 minutes.
I did tell them, I think I actually told them 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to make sure, and just so you guys could ask questions if you needed to, and things like that. We definitely want to give them, you know, the opportunity to say what they need to say, and I think it's a great thing. So Dr. Van, I'm not sure if you heard when you came back in, but so after this, let's say the board talks about it and you guys are like, absolutely, we agree, dry needling, you know, et cetera. Will it be sort of similar to what we're doing right now, like write a sort of position and put it on the board? I mean, the board's website?
We'll probably either put a position paper or put an advisory opinion, then we'll probably put rules in, because we know that the 15-year graduate has not been taught dry needling. So there's going to have to be some mechanism to assure that everybody who's doing dry needling should be doing it. And I would urge you, but you do what you want to do, but I know in my board, I don't think they're going to go for the assistants doing the dry needling.
Okay.
The PT assistants aren't allowed to do it, are they?
I don't know, because I don't regulate PTs, and I don't really care.
I was just asking the group. I don't think PT assistants are allowed to do dry needling.
I've not heard that, but I mean, I've not heard it officially, but I would think not.
Are we saying that we're going to be ever okay with that?
The CODIS doing it?
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend against it, but you know,
yeah, I don't know that I feel comfortable.
Yeah, they don't take. I mean, gross anatomy even. You know, I mean, they have a pretty extensive anatomy, but they don't even do gross anatomy. So,
yeah.
You know,
I would recommend against that too. I think it's a highly specialized technique. I think that people, OTRs that do the continued, do the certification and the continuing education, be of huge benefit to patients. As a certified hand therapist, we had patients walk out of the, and go to PT that we really could have benefited from it and really improve their use of of their extremities and ADLs. And so, but I think it would be really a specialized, OTR and would not go to the CODAs.
Agreed.
I feel like they could maybe do some, I don't know, how do you feel about that? Like follow up, like they're following up with the ADL skills or the activity, that's okay, but not the
Absolutely.
actual
No.
modality. Okay. All right. Okay. So that was really the larger thing I had on dry needling. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts or? All right. All right. And so
It will be on the agenda for the next meeting as soon as I can get it out.
yes. That sounds good. Let's see. Okay. Needed to see what was, okay. So, next is our, confidential case. So
Can we just bring up about continuing, just so that we could have it on next month's agenda, about the CEU units for doing field work?
yes.
I mean, just before we close out the public part.
Yep.
Tell me who's going to accredit those CEUs for field work?
Generally the university would provide a certificate to the fieldwork educator attesting that they provided level 2 fieldwork education to a student. I looked at 14, other than the fact that I truly believe that providing level 2 education, it makes the instructor learn a lot. I did look at 14 different state practice acts. I didn't go beyond that, but of all 14 states provide some continuing education units for doing level 2 education, every single one of them. Usually most of the states provide a cap in the percentage of the CEUs that can be earned by providing level 2 education. Usually it's around 25%.
Again, who's going to accredit them? The schools that you're affiliated with?
Right. The school that has sent the student would provide a certificate attesting that that occupational therapist had provided a level 2 fieldwork education.
All right, because as you just touched a broader base of CEs. Nobody has any CE requirements for this year. So if you got them, great. If you don't have to worry about it. We're not going to audit anybody for this year. Starting in January, if the board approves it at the meeting Monday, if you license renew in January, you'll need 2 CEs for your renewal. If you're February, you'll need 4. If you're March, you'll need 6, and so on till we get to where everybody's got the 20 that they need or the 10 that they need or whatever each individual license class needs. And that way we treat everybody fairly, because it's been so hard for people to get continuing education this year. And so, but next year it's going to be tracked, and you're going to have to submit them to CE broker for next year.
I did find that 2 states that do allow the use of fieldwork education use CE broker, Alabama and Florida. And for example, Florida allows up to 6 hours of fieldwork education over a 2-year period. They only do a biennial thing. And Alabama says that no more than 1/3 of the total number of hours for continuing ed can be from level 2 education. Both of those states use CE broker. So there must be a way that CE broker can be tweaked to allow level 2 education.
You can submit the certificates, and that's the way they'll do it.
There must be a way that they can figure out the percentage, that it can't be more than a certain amount that we deem appropriate.
Yes, once you tell me what it is, we'll set it up.
But not only, okay, so we also, within the continuing education confinement of our rules, we also place that NBCOT, LOTA, and AOTA could do it. Well, NBCOT calls them PDUs, is that right? Which can be converted or whatever. Okay, so NBCOT already has that, right? So if the university even sent it to them, it's still, I'm just sort of asking the larger question, Dr. Van, as far as CE broker, and I'm sure they can figure that out with an
Again,
algorithm.
that's why I asked who is giving the accreditation. You're telling me it's the medical schools. That's fine.
That is okay.
But they're going to have to submit or the licensee will have to take their certificate and send it to CE broker directly. It just depends on how the medical school is set up.
Okay. So we would need to add that in what all we've changed already anyway. Because we changed it and sent you the changes, but that we're asking to
It's gonna have to be modified, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we'll put it on there for the next discussion. Ingrid.
Okay, that's great.
Sure. Okay.
Dr. Van, is that the information about the CEUs not needed for this year? Is that on the website?
Been on the website since March.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Shows how much I look at the website.
I
I
missed it too.
was actually, yeah, I've been trying to find the CEUs that I was going to take for the rest of the year.
Well, LOTA just contacted me yesterday and asked, and so that was actually one of my questions. So I was not going to act like I didn't know, but I was like, I'll ask. Sure. So thank you for telling us for sure.
If you go to the website, you will see the COVID particle and a big red letters, COVID information. If you click there, you can go and see everything we've done for COVID, including suspension of certain rules and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. All right. And so the meeting you said is Monday and Tuesday. So you guys will approve the CE broker for possibly approve it for everyone?
Yes,
at this next September.
Yes, it's on the agenda for this to approve it, and we'll start sending out notices so that the people that renew in January will know they only need 2, and the people that renew in March need 6, and so forth and so on.
Not just docs though, it's everyone.
Everybody.
Okay. All right. So there we are. Okay, so any other discussion about that?
I was just going to say that MBCOT issues CEUs and PDUs.
Okay.
It's based on the type of training endeavor it was, if it had an assessment component or live and you could ask questions component. They have that distinction.
Okay. All right. All right. So the confidential case. So Leslie, we are in, I guess, executive session, but
okay, so wait a minute, stop. We need to turn off the
recording. So 9:45 is going into executive.
Hold on. We got to tell Alan to make sure he turns off the recording. Or you can do it. Do you know how to turn off the recording?
If you tell me how, I will try my best.
I don't have the security button, so I can't walk you through it.
Oh, and I don't think well, I am.
Make me the co-host and maybe I can help you.
I'll get it. Go ahead.
You got it, Alan? All right,
Yeah,
so
make me the host,
just
I'll get
before
it.
you turn it off, Alan, just to make sure there's no more business that we would discuss except this executive session. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Because we can't go back into regular session once we've done this.
Okay. Nope.
Everybody's comfortable with that. Okay.
All right, Miss
Alan,
Amy,
turn it
make me
off.
host, please.
Yeah. Amy, make him host.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Make Alan Phillips host.
All it says is whenever I go back to that it says rename or add profile picture.
I wonder if it's because Ingrid is still co-host.
Oh, with make host. I'm sorry. I got it. I was under me and not Alan.